Awesome. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this call today. By the way, if you don't know, this is the Denver chapter, and we are organizing today's session, which is called Gearing to the New Future of Work, Embracing Agentic AI. Now, Agentic AI seems to be the talk of town. Everybody, at least in the intelligent automation and artificial intelligence space, is talking and preparing for it. So really, the goal today and why we are having this conversation is to truly understand what agentic AI is and what it can do to enterprise automations that are already in place. So this session is not going to be technical at all. I'm just going to talk about what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from UiPath and even the industry. And if you have any questions, concerns on what maybe a challenge that you're going at your workplace or something that you would love to learn, this is why the UiPath community is there for. We are specifically here to be supportive to you, to help you in whatever capacity that you want. So feel free to either add it in chat or you can personally message me, and we'll always be there to help you. And this echoes to everybody in the community, Diana, as well. So that being said, a little bit about our community, and my screen is not working. Let me see. You guys, can you see the next slide? No, right? Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. So a little bit about the community, if you guys do not know, is that UiPath community offers myriads of supportive ways. You can have events that, I personally love to do, and you go and see in community.uipath.com, you'll see a lot of events. You also have forum, where you can network with other developers around the world. You have documentation and education where you can go in and upskill yourself, even with, IDP, Gen AI, Agentic, and many different factors that comes in. So today's session, a little bit about me and what I do in a official capacity is that I'm a senior machine learning consultant at Ashland Partners. I work in the machine learning space, and when it comes to UiPath, I do their document understanding product stack. I work in DU, IDP, generative AI offerings, and now agentic AI. So that maybe helps me a little bit to talk about what I'm seeing in the industry and how we move forward with agenting. All right. That being said, let's get started. So what I want to show you is how UiPath as an organization has grown. UiPath identifies themselves as an AI company, and they started off with RPA, computer vision, with many of you, if you are in UiPath already, are very familiar with. So, they go into generative AI in the most recent years. If you were in Forward, last year, you would have seen the Gen AI push with Copilot, Clipboard AI, all of them were generative AI offerings. And now, as we gear into 2025, the beautiful architecture evolution is where we can now amalgamate our workflow into something that we call agents and AI engines. So what is agentic AI? So I've taken a small screenshot. I was doing a little bit of research yesterday on, what other people are talking about agentic AI. And a lot of research companies and very reputed researchers like Gartner Research, McKinsey, they all have a strategic technology that they are looking into, which is called agentic AI. Now, UiPath's definition of agentic AI, where it's a groundbreaking advancement in AI, where you can use autonomous technology to intelligently reason your workflow. So what do I mean by that? Now, if many of you are familiar with UiPath's current orchestration, for example, if we take IDP, you have that RPA component and you have that AI component. For example, let's say we have an invoice that we need to process that comes to an email and we need to process it, capture fields and values, and then we need to validate it and add it into a third-party ERP like SAP or Salesforce. So currently the pipeline is in place for you to do that with RPA. So you can, have RPA to capture documents from an email, go in, put it into a SharePoint, and then document understanding will capture it. And, it'll do the DU work where it would, capture all the fields, values, and then you validate it with human in the loop if you need to. You run business validations, and then you submit it into a third-party ERP. So when we think about this pipeline, there are certain things when it at least comes to human in the loop or even validation that would take a lot of human time. So the art of the possible, if we imagine what agentic is, it's simply having, an agent that would use reasoning and thought and intelligent decision making to make that decisions for you. So that is the art of the possible in a nutshell on how agentic AI envisions themselves into being within RPA, DU, and any other scope. Hope that makes sense. So if you look into another, screenshot I found, and this is Everest Group, by the way, what they say in agentic AI is that we have natural language input, which is, some kind of input that we can give, interpretation and reasoning. So this would be the part where we interpret our input and find the reason of that input. And then we create a workflow generation, workflow execution, and then we have the output. So over here, it says human intervention review can happen at multiple points as needed or deemed necessary. So this is truly where agentic AI can come in and, use their thought and reasoning mechanism to truly be that liaison within the human intervention / review. But I was actually demonstrating this to one of my team members one day, and they asked me a question. Hey, okay, you're saying you can, use whatever that human uses. This is going to be human in the loop kind of, intervention that agents is going to do. But does that mean humans will be totally eliminated from a workflow in the future? And the answer is no, because humans would still, there will be a portion where humans would still be into it, because we are eliminating the most basic workflows that human reasoning needs to be. But at the same time, this is completely not going to be autonomous. We're not going to make an autonomous solution where you don't need human feedback at all, but you do need human feedback at some gravity, because we're not going to completely autonomize it. And that is also important when you create a complete system, because I don't want to autonomize it, because at least when it comes to AI and machine learning, there are still things that, even a sophisticated machine learning model would not get accurately. So that's why this agentic AI would be an agent, but at the same time, it's not going to be completely autonomous. And I want to call that out. And another question, another one of my peers asked, if agentic AI can do some of the same things that, RPA does, what's the difference between RPA and agentic AI? Isn't it sounds like the same thing. So that was a very interesting question. And I was like, you know what? I don't know how to explain that to you. Let me go in and see what I find. So the main difference between robotic process automation and agentic AI is that RPA is rule-based, and it's structured-based and it's logic-based. So it doesn't come to a point where it needs to independently make decisions, but it would follow a certain set of hierarchy or rules to execute a solution. But the clear difference in agentic AI is agentic AI gets to make decisions based on the scenario that it is. And that comes with something that we called reasoning. And I know I've said reasoning quite a bit, but the reasoning is understanding the logic and the path forward, which we have taught the large language model. So two key distinctions between RPA and agentic AI is that, RPA is more hierarchy, more structured based, but the art of the possible in agentic is that it has that thought reasoning process, which would truly help sophisticated automations really find that reasoning and that path forward if they fall into bottlenecks. And I do have a little example. I'll show that right in the end. But if you have any circling questions on the difference between RPA agentic AI, that is what I've found so far. So another question that you might come in is agentic AI and generative AI. Because if we are in the AI world, there are so many new things that even I don't know of. And my bread and butter is working in artificial intelligence. So, something that is nice to know is Gen AI and agentic AI. So truly what these two are different branches in artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence comes in very, very different branches. Earlier this year, I did a session with UiPath and I explained what is AI and what is Gen AI, what is machine learning and what is Gen AI. So now I want to talk about what is generative AI and what is agentic AI. But simply said, these two are different principles and different branches of a big umbrella that we call artificial intelligence. But if we look at the purpose, it's this agentic AI is autonomous action, decision making, but generative AI, just like the term generative, it is meant to generate context from what it has learned. And, we know large language models, we know ChatGPT and all of those large language models. So the context of Gen AI truly is content creation based on training for their data. And the next one is autonomy. The lovely part of agentic AI is that it's going to have a lot of autonomy, meaning it would be having that independent decision-making component, which we call autonomy, can act independently and set purpose and goals, which in generative AI, it's really not the case because it serves a completely different person. Adaptability. Now, even if you use large language models over time, they can be adaptable. But the context of these two adaptations are completely different. Gen AI, the way it gets adapted is through retraining. If you use a machine learning model, you retrain the model and you teach the model over time. But agentic AI is different. How it does it can adjust its behavior in response to changing conditions of the real world and virtual environments. Now, if you think about it, this is also a little bit different to RPA because RPA does not have that adjusting or adapting change of nature. So if somebody asks you, tell me what the difference is in RPA and agentic AI, you can also use the same context into describing the differences. And another one is, goal setting, where agentic AI can have different goals. It can have tasks, actions that it could submit, which we don't see Gen AI has, and then human oversight. When it comes to generative AI, something that we always keep as a principle is human in the loop. Not at a depth as minimum as we would want agentic, but there would be some kind of human intervention because of the nature of generative AI. The context of it is to generate outputs or generate content, and there needs to be a accountability of who you're gonna, do your content to. And that comes a lot when we have, for example, we have contact centers, we have chatbots that are gonna help, but we need to keep that guardrail around to make sure that the model is accountable and we have the proper governance, security measures. So this comes with a lot of human oversight. But with agentic, it's a little minimized because it's task-oriented and action-based. And when you do a function, you not necessarily have human intervention all the time. And this would minimize, human intervention because of its action and decision-making capability. All right. So I want to also talk now about UiPath's Agentic AI framework. And this is actually one of the screenshots where I got from one of the SMEs that were talking about UiPath's Agentic AI. So what is UiPath's Agentic AI builder and, Agentic AI, they talk about agents quite a bit. So when it comes to a product strategy from a UiPath perspective, you get 4 types of product strategy. One is the enterprise agent. And the reason we call this enterprise is because when you work in an enterprise capacity, the same level of, the governance, trust, regulations are very important, because end of the day, if you work with data, if you are responsible, you need that enterprise agent to be trustworthy. And this is something I personally like, because UiPath always has that UiPath's trust layer in any of their UiPath AI solutions. So you can have the trustworthy AI agents that act independently and make dynamic decisions, but at the same time, you're securing your data and you're securing whatever, technology, data, rules, logic that you have in place. Agentic orchestration. Now, if you work in RPA, orchestration is something that we come to meet every single day. Agentic orchestration is something very, very similar. The strategy would be the same, but now we have that independent thought reasoning into it. So you have end-to-end workflows for business outcomes that includes robots, agents, and people. So now there is a third party involved. And, whenever we build workflows in the future, you don't truly need, robot and human in the loop alone. You can have robot, agents, and human in the loop acting concurrently. So this is something that's nice. And this goes back to me saying robots are not being replaced by agents, but they will be working at a close capacity. They will be working together. And I think robots are necessary for agentic workflows end of the day, because there is an RPA component in end-to-end orchestration. And, best-in-class automation. UiPath always makes sure that, whatever AI tool that comes in is best-in-class and new. And looking into agents specifically, if you look at other competitors, AWS, Azure, all of them are in this hype wagon of agents. But I think with UiPath's repertoire is they are an AI company, and they have been working very deep into IDP and artificial intelligence and document understanding. So because of this structure that they have, them positioning into agentic AI truly gives that best-in-class adaptation, where you can use low code to execute RPA, document understanding, agentic. So if you are a UiPath customer and you want to look into agentic AI, the integration is going to be seamless. You won't be, going into different products or different concatenations. And then the trusted cloud, of course. A lot of us have cloud first adaptations, and UiPath has a trusted cloud and even automation suite if you work in it. But especially when it comes to agent, the cloud first innovation and enterprise governance truly gives that, governance and flexibility. So if you have C-suite or any kind of operational management who's concerned about the risks, one thing that I want to reinforce is the trust layer that would truly govern everything that you work in. All right. So another simplistic agentic framework on the agent trust layer. Now, the reason I'm going to talk about this is for you to imagine where this all fits, because I think I've been talking about agents, robots, document understanding, but this would be an interpretation on how everything would fit if you work in a UiPath orchestration framework. So, you have the AI trust layer, and then you have the agents, and you have the context grounding, action center, any kind of apps that you use, this would be that place where, you truly actionize your items. And this would be the robots, the studio orchestrator, and specialized AI, human in the loop integration service. So this is pretty much the framework on how agents can work concurrently with robots. And if we have context with agents, this is also a Gen AI LLM term. So if you have no idea on context grounding, that's okay. The idea is we have some level of context that we feed into agents, but it needs to be translated in a way for robots and machine and language to understand. And the way we simply do it is called context grounding. And that is a principle within generative AI, right? We also can use business automation RPA workflows in concurrent with agents. This is something that I talked about before. Specialized AI is a UiPath term, again, that is combining all document understanding, communications mining, process mining. But what it's trying to say is that, oops, let me go back. Apologize. There we go. Diana, I think I can't do anything other than stop sharing and start sharing if that's okay with you. Let's see.
That's fine. I'm not sure if you heard me. Yeah.
Yep. Did I stop sharing, by the way?
No, not yet. Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. If that doesn't work, Dana, let me just continue because I was gonna finish anyways. So
Okay.
what I was gonna say is that, there can be all of the tools that UiPath has can work concurrently, as you would see before. And the next one I want to tell you is, what are the most impactful AI use cases today? Some of the ones that we are already implementing in enterprise is something very similar that we have done in RPA and document understanding. For example, streamlining insurance claims processes. For example, if you're doing insurance claims for especially, you'll have a lot of checkpoints where you need human in the loop with. For example, if it's handwriting, signatures, check boxes, all of those capabilities which we use, UiPaths, DU, or natural language to capture, but sometimes you need human in the loop for it. So with agents, what we are going to do is we are going to reduce that risk and effort. And a lot of these operations that we can do reduce that human footprint within a solution. Now I will truly have to stop sharing and share again. 1 second.
Yeah, what we're seeing right now is what are the most impactful agentic AI use cases today.
Let me see what I can do. Okay, now the sharing stopped.
Right.
Team, I apologize. Just give me 1 second. I will go into the next slide. Let me start sharing my screen again. There we go. All right, perfect. You can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
It's not in slideshare mode, just so you know.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see it.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Awesome. So the next one is something that UiPath has done, processing vendor invoices. So this is truly something I put so you can understand what happens in UiPath, and how Agentic can, work together. So you can see here, when it comes to invoices created, you have that robot invoice interview. Sorry, robust invoice review, and then human dispute investigation, resolution, financial accounting, and then it's completed. So when it comes to human dispute investigation, there can be so much of time taken to human disputing because you need to go in, find the documents, you need to understand why it happens. So it can be error prone and it can take quite a bit of hours. And then even when it comes to resolve, you can take, when it comes to humans, you get so much of business days, you don't know about the holidays, and it takes complete days to do that. So, and when we go to update in records, you can update in an ERP and complete. So pretty much this is the same invoice pipeline, but this human intervention can be time consuming and can be tedious. So this is where we truly try to see how agents can work in. Now, you can see here how the agent comes in, right? You help agent with more information you need. Like, so the agent can come in and provide information, provide detailing, and then the agent does all sorts of time-consuming work. If it's, communicate with suppliers, with emails, and do kind of those repetitive tasks. So this way, your automation is now actually getting simplified because the human has an agent to support them. So this is essentially how agents come into this workflow. You don't get agents completely eliminating humans, but you have them to be supportive and to provide all resources. In sometimes, they will do their tasks like send emails, send follow-up emails, or do kind of communication, but the human will also be there in this narration. And you also have robotic process automation, because when it comes to updating records in ERP, this is something RPA does. When it comes to, invoice matching, this is something RPA does. When it comes to invoicing model, this is something document understanding does. So, oh, Diana, I want to touch base with you is you can see the slides, right?
Yeah, they're just not in slide mode,
Okay,
so we can see them.
let me see. Can you see the screen now? Is that?
Yes, you got it.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Partha. I just saw your message and it was really helpful. Awesome. Oh. And with everything comes a risk. And this is something, if I don't talk about this, I would be doing a disservice, because every single call that I go for and advocate for Agentic, if I go into a security team or infrastructure team, they would be very concerned about the ethics and regulations of implementing any kind of technology. But this is kind of getting repetitive, because we did this with generative AI when it came to clipboard AI, Gen AI models. UiPath did a very good job introducing trust layer that has the governance and access control for any kind of solution that they provide. And the UiPath is going with the same narrative ahead with UiPath's trust layer. So even with agents, even with the way that they are, doing the independent thought and reasoning, you still get a certain level of accountability and security with UiPath's AI trust layer. You can control who gets to work with agents and who don't with the access control. If you work with orchestrator, you have that access control. If you're a solution architect, you probably know that this would be same for agents as well. You get the same kind of control that you have for a robot, and you can have that autonomy and oversight, and then transparency, trust, security, and privacy. All of these concerns will be bundled up together in what we call the UiPath's AI trust layer. So if you go into conversations and if you're, going to be somebody who's going to advocate for agentic AI, keep in mind of UiPath's AI trust layer, because if anybody asks, you can immediately go in and talk about that. And UiPath has this resource on their website. So if you just go ahead and Google UiPath trust layer, agentic AI trust layer, you're going to get a ton of resources that's going to support what you're talking. So you have the, evidence-based structure where you can go in and converse on. And what does the future look like for agentic AI, agentic automation, and AI agents? This is something that I screenshotted by UiPath's documentation, by the way, because I think this is very, very interesting. Last year, we were talking about Gen AI, and we were very, very excited about the generative AI capabilities. And this year, we are having agentic AI. If you're looking into, other competitors, you'd see a lot of companies are embracing agentic AI. You can, Microsoft, AWS, Salesforce has their own agents. So the way forward is, agentic AI could truly help enterprise-grade automations be scalable and sustainable. But at the same time, it's important for you and me to keep an open mind in artificial intelligence because it changes rapidly. And for you to be on top of it and you to feel like you are successful and keeping up with the technology is to, continuously upskilling yourself and truly learning what these terms are and what it means to you. So if I could give you an advice on how to keep up in the artificial intelligence industry, is always be curious to know what other people are doing, not just UiPath. And I know this is a UiPath call, but as a community, I always encourage you to see what other teams are doing, what other technical teams are doing. Big companies like Microsoft, AWS are doing. AWS had reInvent early this month in December, and all they were pushing in reInvent was agentic AI. So this is something that's going to be worth learning about, and it's going to be something that's truly helpful. And I think UiPath is doing a very incredible job because they are coming in with UiPath's AI Builder and Agent Builder, which means you still have that low code interface where you can build agents. So if you are an RPA agent, if you're an RPA developer, you're easily going to be able to transition into agent because it's still going to be in that supportive low code environment. I know UiPath has the insider program. It's still in private preview, but if you want to, dive deeper and see firsthand dibs on how it's being done, you can go to insider.uipath.com and learn it. But if not, you can wait for next year where it will be in public preview where you can get to test it. And that concludes my conversation today. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but thank you so much for being in here. And I see that we have quite a bit of questions. So I'm going to look into questions and I will answer. But if you still have questions and you want to talk about it, just unmute yourself and ask questions. So the first one is, Parvati, thank you so much for asking this question. It's like reducing human intervention. Yes, it is. Reducing human intervention, but not eliminating human intervention. That's something that's good to keep in mind. And Partha, something that you asked is this something the future of RPA is going to be? It's interesting. That's an interesting question because I get this a lot. A lot of people, talk about, is RPA dead? Is RPA redundant? Is it done? A part of me says that RPA is still going to be there because RPA, to me, sounds like the foundation on how everything was built. Even agentic AI, the way they have built, has a core principle of robotic process automation. So, like many technology we saw early days, when the internet came in and when Bluetooth came in and when 5G came in, everybody kept saying, is Bluetooth going to die or is that technology going to die? But it didn't die, it evolved. So I think RPA would still be something that's prevalent, but it would evolve into different technologies like agentic AI or workflows or something else. All right. Another question is, in critical industries like insurance or healthcare, how do you build trust with customers when AI agents make autonomous decisions? Now, this is very important, especially in healthcare in the United States, because we have a lot of regulations around HIPAA and the trust and compliance around it. So when it especially comes to healthcare, navigating agents would be much more regulated, and you'll have to do a regulated logic and reasoning. It can be done because generative AI is already implemented in healthcare, so this is one step further. An agent can be done, but the way to go around it would be the control of how agents behave. And this would be the same for insurances. I consider insurance to be within the healthcare domain because they also follow HIPAA and all the healthcare regulations. But the way things work in healthcare is very different from the way things work in different industries like manufacturing. But there are regulations, and if they go to invest agentic, the way to go around is more regulations and more control. All right. Another question is, can you share some points on selection of best candidates for agentic AI automation? How should I change my discovery approach? Amol, if you're in the call, would you be able to clarify? Because I just want to know what are the candidates you're talking about? Is it solution or is it something else? But in the meantime, I'll take another question is, what are some failures or challenges faced during agentic deployment from your experience? That's very interesting, Parvati, and something that I have, experience is number one, and this is not a UiPath, this is, with using different technologies, is that the reasoning, it does get a bit challenging on how you narrate your reasoning strategically and linearly. And the second one is latency. Especially latency is a consideration when you integrate different agents from different services. For example, you have a Salesforce agent bot, you have an HR agent bot, you have UiPath's agent bot. How do you make them work together? And that is, through API-based connections, but latency is something that you need to consider. And then the reasoning, how do you communicate the structured message effectively? And how do you make the agent make decisions effectively? So that reasoning portion would be the most amount of time that you work when you build agents. All right. So another question, and thank you so much for asking all the questions, is we have a lot easier ways to integrate LLMs into UiPath Studios now. And with that ease, what are the possible use cases where RPA agents and agent AI features and capabilities can work hand in hand? So I'll take it into two parts, Partha, because I agree. LLM integration into UiPath is so much easier. And that is the path forward UiPath is imagining too with the AI agent framework. So you'll have something very similar on how you build the RPA portion, where you build the AI portion. And this would be easily integrated, which I think compared to everyone else in the industry, I love that UiPath is doing this. So this now enables RPA developers to actually work with AI agents. All right. Impact on job and opportunity. That is another question Parvati asked. Thank you so much for that question. I think this is coming a lot. I've seen that, and you are not wrong for asking this because we are all going into AI and everybody's trying to run into AI. So what would happen for jobs, for people to do that? I don't want to say that there would be missed opportunities in job, because I don't believe that's true. Because if we look, 20 years ago when the internet came in, everybody had the same fear. They thought, okay, the internet is coming in. What is going to happen to our jobs? Because now we can connect with each other. So we don't need that level to, travel or communicate in other ways. But we found other ways to, evolve ourselves. So even in the future, whenever new technology comes, and they are going to come, in 2 years, you're going to have something new and more sophisticated than agentic AI. But how do you prepare for that is the way you learn and upskill yourself. And I think this needs to happen to everybody, because, you might not be in the same position that you are in today, but you will evolve as you go within the next 5 years. Right. Last question. If you are staying here, thank you so much. And Loveness Shinake has asked, I have an RPA project I'm working on, and we're using an LLM. What I want to know is it possible to retrain these LLMs using human input, just like how we can retrain models after human validation in DU? Yes, you can, but if you're using a Gen AI LLM in UiPath, what I'm understanding that you're using is you're using something like GPT-3 or Azure OpenAI. When it comes to retraining, it would be a little bit more sophisticated. The way you can do it is create your custom LLM, but it would take a little bit of segue, and you'll have to do a little bit away from the standard offering. So yes and no. You cannot, train the Gen AI model that you have if you're using Gen AI activities like Gen AI extraction, Gen AI validation. But if you want to retrain, you'll have to use integration service and have an API-based integration where you'll have to, retrain, create a custom model, stage it in your orchestration, and retrain it. So yes and no. There is a way around it, but it's long-winded. But if the short answer, you want to just call in the Gen AI activities model, you won't be able to retrain it. All right, Parvati, last question. How do these AI agents work on long-term process? And I understand, is it long-standing workflows? So my assumption is it would be the same strategy as the RPA. You have attended, unattended robots, and the same logic will be used. So if it's a long-running workflow, the agent should be able to support it. And that is usually how the agent framework would work with. So it's very similar, but the only difference that I'm seeing is that thought and reasoning and independent decision-making portion of it. Awesome. Thank you guys for actually joining the conversation today. I think with all your questions, it was very exciting for me to talk about this as well. This is a new topic for me too. So, getting to talk about agents, agentic AI was truly wonderful. And I think thank you for the questions. Those were really helpful to identify. We as a community will be having more agentic AI sessions as we get more information on how UiPath will be releasing their agent framework. But in the meantime, join the community and keep in touch, and you'll get a notification if we have our next session. So thank you all for joining, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.